Hi everyone, and welcome to Can 483, Statistics in Human Movement. My name is Natalie, and I will be your instructor for this semester. Feel free to call me Natalie. First name basis is totally cool. I still feel a little bit weird being called a professor, so Natalie is fine. But if you want to know a little bit more information about me, I have linked my instructor bio in the course homepage. I've also included my instructor information, my email, my response time, as well as office hour link for quick access for you to get in touch with me. In terms of communication, email is definitely the best way to get a hold of me. I typically respond easily within 24 hours. Sometimes it could be as early as 5 to 10 minutes. So if I'm not doing anything, or if I'm on my computer and I have a notification pop up, I typically will respond as soon as I see that notification. But feel free to read a little bit more about what I've done and where I come from. I'm currently doing a PhD in movement neuroscience with a minor in biomechanics at University of Massachusetts in Amherst. So I have a 3-hour time difference, which might affect response times. So if you guys email me at midnight, that's, 2 o'clock my time, so I might be asleep. But yeah, I should still respond regardless of time change. If I'm up at ungodly hours of the morning, then I likely will still respond to you. But you can read a little bit more about me here. I will now direct us to our course syllabus. All of my instructor information that I just showed you on the course homepage is located at the very top of our syllabus. We have Zoom meetings for office hours scheduled regularly on Mondays from 11:30 to 12:30. If that time does not work for you, you can also schedule an appointment to meet with me outside of this time window. I would highly recommend doing an appointment, especially if you have any personal information or grades or certain personal scenarios that you need to discuss. That way, students who are also in office hours at the same time don't get in your business. I've linked the meeting and the password down here. I've also given you guys a Google Calendar link that has the Zoom meeting link embedded in it if you want to add it to your calendar. For our class meeting times and locations, we have 2 sections of this course for the semester, section 1 and 2, so 1 being the lecture, 2 being the activity part of your enrollment. That is going to be the online asynchronous meeting, so you're not required to see me live at any time during the week. Sections 5, 6 will be our synchronous / high flex course. So you have a synchronous lecture meeting, but you have an asynchronous activity every week. I am opening up the online or the live Zoom meetings on Mondays from 1 to 2:50 for anybody who wants to attend. So the meeting links will be available for the asynchronous group if you guys want to have that virtual face-to-face time and the opportunity to ask questions in real time. I do want to note for my section 5, 6, when the Kin office input the time for the class, they put 1 to 3:50. This course is actually 1 to 2:50. Traditionally, we had 1 hour and 50 minutes for in-person lecture as well as activity. I don't believe in keeping you guys for 3 hours. That is excessive and way too much to sit through. So 1 to 2:50 is our lecture time. We should not go past this unless there are an excessive amount of questions or people have questions on the activity past when we're done talking about the lecture. I think that you guys are responsible for your own education, so I don't take attendance. It's not part of your grade, but I do recommend showing up as you do get the opportunity to ask questions during the live sessions. I have similar meeting links, Google Calendar links, and links to where you can find this information in the course. As a note, all lectures are going to be pre-recorded and posted to Beachboard for both sections. You can find the links to the videos in the weekly module checklists, and I'll also be posting them in the course materials section on Beachboard as well. Additionally, the live meetings will be recorded, so you have the option to either listen to the lecture without student questions or listen to the lecture with student questions. The only instance where we will not have pre-recorded lectures are for exam review sessions, and I'll touch on that when we get to looking at the course schedule later in this video. Any Zoom recordings I will usually post within 24 hours of the lecture being delivered. Sometimes if it's a 2-hour lecture, they take a while to upload onto YouTube, and given the time change, usually the uploading would occur when I would be eating dinner. So just be patient with the uploads for those videos, but the recordings will be there, and you also have the pre-recorded videos to refer to as well. Additionally, all activities will be pre-recorded. Student feedback from the past 2 years have reflected that pre-recorded videos for the activities worked the best. We used to do activities in person in real time, and yeah, everybody moves at a different pace when you're working through Excel and SPSS, so having the ability to stop, start, rewind, fast forward, skip through the videos has been really helpful for students in past semesters. But all of these are the links to all those videos will be through YouTube, and they'll be posted in the weekly module checklists, as well as in the activity section of the course materials and the content of our course. Prerequisite coursework includes your core King classes, so, oh no, there we go. So biomechanics, XPhys, and motor control and learning. You don't need to be an expert in any of these topics, but because this class is talking about research and statistical analysis in kinesiology, you should be familiar with different variables that might exist in each of these subjects, because those are what we're going to use for examples in our data sets, and also for your final project in this class, which again we'll touch on a little bit later. You'll be able to choose a topic that's related to any one of these 3 topics, as well as physical activity, which is not a prerequisite for this course. So when you choose your topic, having some background knowledge on these subjects might be helpful to you. Our general course description, I'll let you guys read through that, but pretty much we're learning about how we can apply statistical analyses in kinesiology, as well as different methods on how we might collect data, how we might analyze data and treat it, organize it, visualize it, that type of deal. So I've included your course learning objectives down below the course description. Each week that we have a lecture or we're talking about a new topic, we're calling those modules. And for each module, you will have more specific objectives that are related to these 6 course learning objectives. So you'll know and be able to track your progress on what skills you're learning that are contributing to all of these objectives that you should be able to successfully do by the end of the course. For course time commitment, you should be expecting to spend about an average of 9 hours a week. This is following the regular 3 hours per unit formula, so it's a 3-unit course, 3 hours per unit, you get 9 hours. I've kind of laid out an example of how you might allocate your time throughout the week. So lecture typically is going to be 2 hours of videos, and then activities are usually anywhere from 1 to 2 hours of videos, as well as actually doing the activity, which should also take you about 1 to 2 hours. So activities are where you're going to spend the bulk of your time for the week. Discussions are usually going to be reflection-based. Sometimes I might give you an article to read, sometimes you might have different mathematical problems, and you kind of look at how you would interpret the results that you get from those. So those could take 30 minutes, they could take an hour. There's also the responses that you're going to be posting to other students in the class. So I've guesstimated the discussion area. And then any other stuff like completing quizzes, other assignments, if you're studying, attending office hours, etc. Doing data collections, those would be included in the rest of the time for the week. As for practice videos, I just want to make a note. My methods in this class are to help you guys with the learning curve. So because we are learning how to use different types of software that some of you may have never used before or have used very minimally, I like to guide you and kind of hold your hand in the beginning of the semester as you learn how to navigate each bit of software and you become associated with the environments of those softwares. And then towards the end of the semester, I just let you do more independent learning. I'll give you examples and practice problems and then let you apply those skills to your activities on your own. So that's why there's this gap of 1 to 2 hours. It's more heavy in video time at the beginning of the semester and gradually getting less and less towards the end of the semester. For course resources, textbooks are optional. Save money. Okay. I know that most of you might not ever read these books again, and you can't always sell them back for what you buy them for. So if you like to have supplemental reading sources, these are the books that I'm referencing in the course. I do go over several chapters a week, which is another reason why I don't require the books. But if you do want to buy either one of these, you can go to the university bookstore. I also have a preferred site, which is cheapesttextbooks.com. It's kind of like an Expedia for textbooks. So instead of finding the cheapest airline flights, you find the cheapest textbook offers over a wide variety of textbook sites. That's for buying new or used books, renting for a semester, or they also have sellback options if you're trying to sell back a book. So you can check out that resource. It is a safe site. It takes you to secure links online, but I have saved literally so much money using that website, so highly recommend. Computer access and software is required. I cannot emphasize that enough. So if you don't have access to a computer at home, now that campus is open, you should be able to use computers on computer labs around campus, either in the library or the Horn Center. The Division of Student Affairs is still doing a hotspot and computer loan program if you don't have access to internet or a computer at home. I've also linked a resource for other internet access options, both on and off campus. That's via the library website. So feel free to check those out if you're a little bit limited on computer access or internet access. And Microsoft programs, so the regular Office, PowerPoint, Word, and Excel, have access to all of those. PowerPoint is where our lectures will be coming from. I also usually include PDFs of those, so you have options on how you can work with the lecture material. But I do include notes in the PowerPoints sometimes, so having PowerPoint probably is better. I also have Word, so obviously the syllabus is in Word, but all of your activity instructions, your discussion prompts, and answer sheets are going to be in Word documents, so you should be able to access those via either the desktop app or using the online Office apps. And then Excel. Number one, you have to have Excel. We're going to be working a lot in that with data organization, visualization, manipulating data, rearranging it, that type of thing. So you really need to have Excel. You have free online access through your CSULB Office 365 apps. These are all of your Microsoft programs that the university is partnered with. So you shouldn't have to purchase anything. Sometimes, or at least in past semesters, I've had students run into graphing limitations on the online version of Excel. So far, I haven't found any of those issues to be major problems, so you should be able to get away with using the online version. The nice thing about these online versions is that they have autosave functions, so you don't have to worry about your cat walking across your computer keyboard, which happens to me quite often, and deleting your work or editing a spreadsheet that you didn't want to be edited. So you have autosave functions in there, which are easily editable. You can go back to previous versions, that type of thing. So if you do want to purchase or download the desktop apps, I've linked the Software Depot. I think all of the apps are about $15, which is way cheaper than you would get if you went to like Best Buy or some other tech store that you have access to buying Office programs at. For any additional support or frequently asked questions on using the online apps, you can refer to the ATS website. They have been super helpful for me, very responsive, and if they can't answer your questions, they usually can direct you to somebody who can. We're also going to be using SPSS statistics for all of our statistical analyses. This is free through the Software Depot that I've linked here. And then I've also done a step-by-step video on how to download SPSS, because when you look it up in the Software Depot, there are many options that show up, and I want to make sure you download the correct version. I will be doing all of my activity videos on version 27. If you have picked up from my display, I am working off of a MacBook, so there are slight differences between Windows and Mac, but for the most part the program operates the same way. If you do run into issues and you're on a Windows computer or a different operating system, please let me know, and I'm always happy to walk you through or help you troubleshoot and figure stuff out. If you don't have access to Microsoft Office programs or SPSS, which you do have free access to both of them, so hopefully you're able to download these onto your desktop. But if you don't have access to those, you can always use the virtual lab, which is a really cool resource that's located in your single sign-on page. And when you go to the virtual lab, you'll want to go to Desktop D, which is for math and statistics. I've linked that right here, so it's quick and easy. You just click on it and it takes you to the virtual lab. But basically what this does is it mimics a campus computer desktop. So you have access to Microsoft programs on there, you have access to SPSS, pretty much anything you would need. I do walk you through steps on how to get there and different pros and cons to using the virtual lab through this help video, which is linked here, so feel free to watch that. But I've had students in the past who were like, SPSS stopped working on my desktop, I don't know what to do, and I'm like, well, you have the virtual lab, so if you get stuck or something stops working, you always have this resource as a backup. All you need is internet access and a computer, which you should have for this class anyways. For our grading policy and point distribution, this is a pretty standard grading scale. The only thing that I do a little bit differently than other instructors might do is that if you are on a cusp, such as like if you have an 89.5% in the class, I round up. But that's only for decimals of 0.5 or higher. So if you're at a 0.3 or a 0.4, please don't ask me to bump your grade. There are opportunities for extra credit that are outlined kind of lower in this section, so you should have plenty of opportunities to make sure that you are working towards the best grade that you can in this class. I've kind of outlined different learning activities and assessments that you will have throughout this semester, as well as their weighted percentage towards your final grade in the class. I don't use a point system, so when you calculate your grade, and I explain this a little bit more in the Beachboard navigation video, but you'll have a point area, which is how each assignment is graded individually. You'll have a weight of each of those assignments, and then you'll have kind of a category that matches either exams, quizzes, activities. And so what will happen is your grade will add up the grade weights as they apply to the total weight for that category. So exams, if you want to think about it in a point concept, exams are technically worth like 30 points or 30% of 100. Okay. But my philosophy is that I know test anxiety is a real thing, so I don't like to make it so that your entire grade is based on exams. especially in an online learning environment, testing anxiety actually has popped up a lot more commonly for several of the students I've had in the past. So for exams, you're not going to use Lockdown Browser, you don't have to use Respondus Monitor. Two other main reasons for why I don't use those programs is because you will be going back and forth between spreadsheets and SPSS and your exam, which are not allowed in Lockdown Browser. And if I do allow them in Lockdown Browser, I have to make a separate spreadsheet, an online spreadsheet for every single one of you, which if I'm doing 60 of those, it's not reasonable. Also, if you're writing work down or referencing notes, I don't want the monitor to think that you're cheating when you're actually not. So you don't have to worry about being recorded. I know that itself lowers test anxiety like this much for a lot of students. So just be honest, don't cheat, like do your own work, take pride in your own work, and you should be good to go. But the bulk of what your grade is made up of in this class is what you do on a weekly basis. So you can see that more than half of your test grades are going to be on the things that you are actually interacting with the most in the class. I think that is more reflective of your learning than giving you 3 tests throughout the semester and then seeing how you do. I've given a description of all of our learning activities and assessments below here, so feel free to read through those, and then if you have any questions, you can post them to the general course questions discussion board. But they pretty much outline how many assignments or assessments there are throughout the semester, where you can locate them, if there are any attempt restrictions, and then kind of what they cover. There's also a late policy or late work policy for each item. The only assessment that I accept late work for are activities. And the reason being is that I have office hours on Mondays. We have class on Mondays. Those are 2 opportunities for you guys to ask questions on activities on the day that they are due. So you have an entire week to work through stuff on your own, ask questions once you have kind of done a majority of the work, and if you got stuck on something, that's your opportunity on that Monday it's due. And then, you know, if you have class later in the evening or you have work or something and you can't make any changes, you can still turn the activity in 24 hours after the listed due date and time. The only thing is that your assignment will be marked down at 10% for being turned in late. All other late policies are no late submissions, so quiz links will close at a certain time, discussions will be locked at the due date that's posted, and you won't be able to make any changes after that time has passed. The only thing that you can do for yourself, if you can foresee that there is an issue or you have an emergency that pops up, email me as soon as possible, ideally before your situation happens if it's a predictable one. And then if it's an excusable reason, then we can discuss how you can do makeup work without any point deductions. But I'll let you guys read through those. They're very thorough descriptions, as well as information on what your final project is all about. This is mainly to just tie everything together throughout the semester to see how you have picked up on different concepts and skills that we develop as we go through the course. As I mentioned previously, there are extra credit opportunities. These come as pre- and post-semester surveys and exam review quizzes. So the exam review quizzes will be based off of review sessions that happen the week before exams occur. And then the quizzes are completely optional, and they're usually worth about 10 points. So I take 10 questions from the review, plop them in a quiz. As long as you've attended the review session and or watched the recording of the review session and or have done the review on your own and feel confident in your answers, it's an easy extra credit opportunity. Additionally, I do pre- and post-semester surveys for any of you who have had me before. These surveys are very different from like the spot evals that you get at the end of the semester. The pre-semester survey is to serve to give me an idea of where you are as a student, what you have access to in terms of technology, what your comfort levels are in working with different types of softwares, in addition to providing any kind of preemptive feedback for what you would like to see in an online course. And then the post-semester survey is more specific than what I get in spot evals, and it just gives me a better idea of what you liked in terms of the learning activities that we have throughout the semester, as well as if you have any suggestions for how I can make the learning experience better for students. I have changed a lot about this course just using the post-semester survey from students, so feedback is super important to me, and I do actually read it and apply changes. So every extra credit opportunity is worth 0.5%. Towards your final grade. So that little cusp bump might come from any of these opportunities, but it also gives you some leeway if you mess up and you didn't turn in an activity, you forgot to study for an exam. I mean, all of these opportunities amount to 2.5%, which is the weight of an activity. So it basically makes up for if life happens and you need a little break. So just stay on top of them. Once they pass, they are gone. I do want to make a note that it is your guys' responsibility to stay on top of deadlines and check your grades regularly on Beachboard. You should be doing this once a week, because I will update grades about once a week. The general format of how things work is that you get the material 1 week, the following week you turn it in, the following week you get grades and feedback. So if for any reason I'm behind on grading, I usually will give you that information in weekly announcements, so that way you know when to expect your grades and when to expect your feedback, so that you can review that feedback to prepare for the next exam, whenever that is during the semester. Our sequence of assignments or course schedule is linked right here, but you can also navigate towards it. It's at the very end of the document, so just scroll your way through our 13-page syllabus and you have landed at the course schedule, but we'll go through that at the very end of the video. In the middle, kind of making up the bulk of our syllabus, are all instructional policies that are related to the university, as well as more specific policies that are related to the course. So if you look over in our navigation bar on the left-hand side in this video, you can kind of see we've got accessibility statements and resources, different sources for plagiarism and cheating, definitions of those, what actions will be taken against students who violate or are not displaying academic integrity. Just a side note, I do run anything that goes through Dropbox through Turnitin, which is a plagiarism detecting software. So just know that you will have originality reports generated on any assignments that go through Beachboard or through Dropbox on Beachboard. So this mainly pertains to activities and your final project. But it's just to make sure that you're not plagiarizing external sources and you're also not plagiarizing each other, because it does compare student papers within the learning management system. I've also included information on withdrawal policies, preferred gender pronouns, classroom expectations in terms of netiquette, so how you should behave in an online setting, and then also information and resources with regards to information security, because we are collecting data in this class. Your personal information will not be identified with that data that you collect. So you can rest assured that anything that is personally related to you in this class will stay in this class. I've also included some important semester dates and deadlines. These are primarily taken off of the Enrollment Services website as well as the Academic Affairs calendar. So any dates where we don't have class or important dates if this course isn't working out with your schedule or you're struggling and you need to withdraw, there are withdrawal dates here as well. And then lastly, before we get to the course schedule, we have student resources. related to both technology support in Beachboard, office programs, any other support that you might need for your Long Beach student accounts. Those are all linked here. And then any other student resources that you might need access to are pretty much listed down here. If there is not a support source that is provided that you need, please let me know and I can get a hold of it. The last thing I want to mention is, before we get to the course schedule, is BMAC. So this is formerly our Disabled Student Services. If you need extra time on tests, or you need a note taker, or any other course accommodations, please go through the BMAC Center. They will send me an email that you have been enrolled. I think it's good to have redundancy that you also email me that you are getting set up through the Access Center, so I can adjust your access and your time limits on exams if that's something that you need. But also we can discuss different resources that might be available to you for this class based on accommodation needs through that center as well. All right, last but not least, let's go through our course schedule just so you get an idea of what our course looks like. We have a course orientation that becomes available a week before classes start, so you've kind of got 2 weeks to do kind of the introductory stuff. There is a Get Started quiz that kind of goes through course policies, as well as a discussion board for you to introduce yourself to me and your classmates. We then have all of our weeks of instructions, the topics and modules that we will be covering, as well as optional reading from the textbooks if you decide to get those. I think this serves as a great example of why I don't require you to read textbooks, because I pull from a lot of different chapters in the textbooks, and it's not reasonable for me to ask you to read 5 chapters in 1 week. That's not okay. You can see that our assignments follow a very consistent pattern. I list and number the activity quizzes and discussion boards as they relate to the module they exist in. So Module 3 has activity, quiz, and discussion board 3. I've listed the start dates of each module as well as the due dates, so you shouldn't get confused on when anything is due. If you print this out and put it on your refrigerator so you can refer to it there. All due dates are also automatically populated into the Beachboard calendar. So if you set up your Beachboard notifications, you should be notified on when assignments are due or when their availability is beginning or ending. I do want to point out, just using this Exam 1 content, that we will do the first exam covers these 3 modules. We then have a review week where you have no required assignments due. It's purely for you to, well, at the beginning of the week, Module 3 content would be due. But the rest of the week, you just have to review all of the material, any feedback that I've provided, and then you have the option to do the exam review questions and quiz if you want to. But this week gives me time to grade the previous module's work. That way you have access to any feedback prior to taking your exam. Exam weeks are very similar to review weeks, so you just participate, turn in all of your stuff. If you did any review materials, turn all of that in on the Monday of the following week. You do your exam, and then you can take a break the rest of the week. We would then pick up the next module set, and these would be the primary topics that would be covered for the next exam. The one thing I want to point out on the schedule is that Exam 3 happens on a Wednesday. It is the only of the 3 main exams that we take that doesn't occur on a Monday, and the reason being is that I give you guys a review activity during the Exam 3 review week, and having you take your test on Wednesday gives me time to grade Activity 10 so you have feedback prior to taking your exam. If this doesn't work, or if you have issues accessing the exam on a Wednesday, let me know prior to this exam, preferably closer to the exam date, so that way we can schedule a makeup for you so that you don't miss any points. I do have the final project. This will be given to you 4 weeks before the project is due, which is on Monday, December 13th. And I think this is the first day of finals week for this semester. But you'll turn that in. If you're pleased with your first 3 exam scores, turning in the final project is where this course ends. If you want to make up one of your 3 exam scores or try to get a better grade, you can attempt the final exam. Taking the final does not hurt any of your 3 previous grades. You can only bump your grade up, you cannot bump your grade down. So if you want to try and pass one of those cusp grades, or maybe life happens, you missed an exam, or you didn't study and you did really bad on a previous exam, this is your opportunity to redeem yourself. The only thing is that the final exam is cumulative versus the first 3 exams are just primarily based on the modules that are covered prior to the exams taking place. But our final exam will be open on Wednesday, December 15th through Thursday, December 16th. So you have 2 full days. If you have other finals going on, this is your opportunity to just pick a 3-hour window. You're not necessarily going to use the 3 hours, but give yourself some time to sit, relax, go through the exam, no stress, that type of thing. Okay, but it is totally optional if you're happy with your first 3 exam grades. The last note that I have got bumped down to the next page, but this is a tentative plan for this semester. If anything changes, I will be sure to let you guys know on Beachboard, through news announcements, through email, as well as making a verbal announcement in our live meetings. So there are lots of redundancies on where and how you can get information for the class. I try to make that a thing for all course resources, so you should never get stuck not knowing where to find something. But that's pretty much it for our course overview. I know it was a little bit lengthy, but I like to be a little bit more detailed than not detailed. That makes it so that there are less questions that are asked, and you have a better reference to go back to if you forget something, or if you need to ask a question, refer to the syllabus. Hands down, most of the information is probably there that you're looking for. But welcome again to Kin 483. I'm excited to work with you guys this semester, even if it's through Zoom or a pre-recorded camera lens. But we're going to have a great time. I've got some new course components that I haven't tried out in previous semesters, but they were suggested by students from last semester, so it's going to be a learning experience for all of us. I'm excited and can't wait to work with you.